Okay, there's one more to talk about before we get to our top three.
Oh yeah, this one's
the other UE5 game that also was potentially considered for the top three, Black Myth Wukong.
Black Myth Wukong.
And boy, does this game make a strong first impression. That intro scene is incredible. The way the way the camera is able to zoom through all that stuff at such speed, and then you're like fighting in the clouds, and just like, my goodness, like when I first played this, I was like, wow, this is stunning. But unfortunately, it also has some negative issues that are also kind of Unreal-ish problems, shall we say, similar to Silent Hill 2. But let's talk about what makes this shine first. And Alex, I think you did the main video on this, so you take it from here.
Yeah, sure. I did main, and then Rich and Oliver have respectively covered it as well too. So we all have something to say here. Even if Rich, bless his soul, he's here spiritually.
He tasked us with making this video.
Yeah. I thought this game was really good looking right from the beginning. The intro cuts scene that mixes in with gameplay, very God of War 1 through 3 style kind of way to start a game, get you a sense of your power. But it's actually a kind of old school video game thing where you start off with a lot of power and then your powers are stripped away. That is a very classic video game trope. But they do it in a fantastical way where you're fighting in the clouds and there's this beautiful fluid simulation on the fog, the cloud fog that you're running through. Very cool.
Good, dude.
Scalable too. They also ran it on consoles, less, pretty there, but they actually ran it there, right? And then as you get into the game, you realize, they're not just using that like cloud sim, that like fog sim for stuff. They use it actually for a ton of stuff in the game. And when you get through the game, you realize Unreal Engine 5 on PC, they also shipped with the NVIDIA branch of Unreal Engine 5, which added in things like replacing Lumen with like a more integrated and more thorough and like robust like path trace lighting scheme with specular lighting and stuff like that, water reflections, real-time ray guided water caustics, which make all those scenes with water in the game, for which there's quite a lot actually. A lot of scenes actually have water in them, a lot more vibrant. Game is super heavy though, like ridiculously heavy if you run it on the highest settings. But I do enjoy the ambition of shipping a game that has settings that don't run on current GPUs, but run on something in 3 years from now. I'm very cool with that.
I would say, Alex, though, it still does, like, I found it was perfectly playable at those really high settings. Like, it's not super smooth that way, but like it's smooth enough where you can still very much enjoy it.
Yeah, especially if you're using something like frame gen, obviously that helps a lot.
Frame gen is key, alas.
And in general, like you look at the armor, the characters, the environments, everything is like really ridiculously well done. Like everything, you just go anywhere, everything tends to look really great. It's that's a rarity, and I think that there's probably years and thousands and thousands and thousands of working hours that made that the case. So this would have been like a top 3 candidate. But for me, so I want to actually revise my video when I say this. Like I played the game and I was generally kind of okay with it. And I was complaining, of course, in that video about traversal stutter. I just hate it so much. But so after my video though, I complained about that in the video, but then I played the game further on PC after the video because I actually like the game.
It is good. Yeah, I like it.
But I got further. I got to the desert zone after the first zone, and man, the desert zone is so stuttery. Traversal stutters. It also they do a shader burn at the beginning of the game, but it obviously doesn't cover some of the later levels like at all. And I was like opening pots and pans and whatnot and seeing just shader compilation stutter in the second zone in the desert. There's probably no footage of this because we don't have any banked footage of it. But it was a real letdown. And it's like, man, the first zone was a lot more performant than the second zone in a way that I found. Like stutters are very different than low performance GPU performance or CPU performance. It's like awful feeling. And I thought it was a huge letdown. And all that kind of stuff coupled with the totally bizarre console release really made me like, I think we look at like from the bottom of the stack to the top of the stack, and we look at like what is really technically well done there. And I say like those combination of factors bumped it off like the top 3 for me, where it was just like, especially on the PC, that stutter stuff that like grinds my gears. Like I just cannot deal with stutter. So yeah, that's why I wasn't there. I don't know, Oliver, do you got anything to say about Black Myth Wukong?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the game looks extraordinary. I think the stuff they're doing with fluid sims and the volumetrics looks really, really cool. And the lighting is high quality, and the world looks interesting, and the enemies are cool and interesting, and you know, lots of stuff there that you don't really see in other titles in terms of the themes and the art, and it looks really, really cool. But like you said, the console versions had a wide range of issues, which were sort of interesting, mostly stemming from kind of the basic configuration of the title there.
Yeah, weird choices, right?
Yeah. You had a balance mode that targeted 45 frames per second and generally ran there, which is hysterical. Because on PS5, the VRR range goes from 48 to 60 there normally. And it doesn't support 120 hertz output, nor LFC with 120 hertz output, which would kind of clean that up. So that was just completely bizarre. Like, I don't know why they picked that. Obviously, I pointed out that some of the Batman games on Xbox One X ran in a similar fashion, but it doesn't make any sense here at all. There's no way to get that to work properly or look good on display at 60 hertz. It just does not work. Then there was a quality mode, which was like unlocked. Apparently it could hit 45 FPS at the maximum, but it was usually in the like low to mid 30s there. Again, just bizarre. And then there was a performance mode that targeted 60 FPS with frame gen. So internally 30 FPS essentially with some extra lag on top. Did not feel that great. But I can report, because I've been doing a video on this subject, that at least 2 of those modes have been improved. So the balance mode, if you turn on 120 hertz output, it goes to 40 FPS. So that divides 3 times into 120 FPS essentially. So you get a very nice, reasonably smooth experience there without any frame pacing woes or issues. Then the quality mode now goes to 30 FPS flat. So it's just a straight 30 FPS there without any kind of frame time wobbles or frame pacing inconsistencies. The performance mode is basically the same as it was before, which is not great. And that actually does change my recommendation. Like before, I would have said the performance mode is the only way to get good and evenly frame-paced gameplay. Now I would say probably the balance mode at 40 FPS is pretty flattering for that title. Even though I would maybe prefer ultimately a good 60 FPS mode that didn't use frame gen if they could achieve that. Certainly, Rich's experiments on PC seem to indicate that it is indeed possible if you were to lean on FSR or TSR a little more. But then there's also PS5 Pro support, which makes the quality modes and balance modes a little bit better, although it does not seem to affect the performance mode, weirdly enough. So yeah, a little strange. There's still a bit of weirdness in there for sure, but at the moment, like, its configuration on consoles is okay. It's good enough. You can get a good experience out of it if you know what you're doing. So yeah, it's not in the worst shape at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's still not ideal. Like, I still think offering a performance mode with frame gen and at 60 FPS is just silly. A big no-no. Big no-no for me. So yeah, that's my why you're not in the top 3, Black Myth. But otherwise,
just like really Silent Hill, basically similar kind of.
Just like Silent Hill 2.
I'm also playing on PC, and yeah, I agree. I was like, oh my god, when you get to the desert, it's just like. It like I felt like I got my performance dialed in really well for a while there, and then you get there and it's just like it's just all over the place. Drove me nuts. And then on console, so I feel like, just to clarify for some people, because I feel like people don't necessarily understand why we complain about certain things like frame gen. So we'll say a positive in one video but then negative in another. What's going on, guys? Well, the problem here is like we always would say don't use frame gen from a low base frame rate. Right? That's the problem. They're basically going from 30 FPS to 60. And this adds a huge amount of input latency, in addition to the visual bugs that you get having fewer frames to sort of like interpolate from, right? So it looks worse and it feels worse. And then also 45 FPS. Why is that bad, guys? Again, the problem is without proper VRR supporting that range, a normal TV can't actually display that correctly. So what it means is that every other frame or whatever will be on screen for different amounts of time. Like one frame is like 33 milliseconds, then 16, then 33. It kind of wobbles between them, right? And the result is that it gives it this like stuttery look. It's not smooth because it doesn't synchronize to the refresh rate. And for us personally, those things drive, I think, all three of us nuts. Like, I don't find that pleasant at all. A lot of people didn't seem to mind and were happy with the game in its original state, but like it didn't work for any of us. And that's a shame because it's nice though that, again, like Silent Hill now with its 30 FPS in quality mode on Pro, Black Myth at least has a good like 40 FPS mode, which is really cool. And that little bit extra frame rate is useful because it is a fast action game. But still, it's a shame that it has those problems because aside from that, it is a freaking stunning game. Just an absolute masterclass in visual design and one of the best looking UE5 games.